Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. This week, Jeff Earlywine from Purpose, Plan, Profit. Boy, I had to really think about that, Jeff, because the three P's were. I love the sequence, man. But sometimes in the morning, the wheels ain't turning quite right. But hey, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to join us. Good to see you.
Well, it's good to be here with both of you guys. And, purpose, plan, and profit is a very important thing. And my phone is ringing, believe it or not. Let me, good Lord. Hold on just a second. I am so sorry about that. It's amazing when you're in demand. I guess people just want you.
You know what? That scarcity drives the process, right?
It sure does. So let me make all this stuff stop ringing here. I am so sorry about all that. All right. I guess when you're a busy business coach, that stuff happens. But what is the purpose? What is your plan? And let's make some profit. But and I actually noticed I have two more P's, but I didn't feel like all that could be in a website. So I just stuck to the purpose, the plan, and the profit. So
all right. Well, then anyway, what are the other two P's? You gotta say.
Oh yeah.
People. You got to have people. Everything. John Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. So you got to have people. And as you build a business, you got to generally hire people. You got to train people. You got to fire people. All that, and then processes. That's the glue that makes your business really run. And if you're like a lot of my clients, they have multiple locations, and they need that glue so that they're not pulling their hair out, going nuts, and having nervous breakdowns and losing their family. So that's the 5 P's that I really focus on in every business. And every business has them, whether it's General Motors, IBM, the little restaurant on the corner, doesn't matter. They all have those 5 P's.
That's awesome. And I'm gonna really confuse myself. And I'm gonna add a 6th P because as we were talking in the green room earlier, this is our last show for June, and our theme for June this entire month for all our shows has been perseverance. And what I love about that, what you just said, the people thing, I got to jump back to that now that I've given my perseverance step out here, is the people thing. Because years ago when I was in the Army, I learned the phrase mission first, people always. And when you talk about you got to have those people, you got to take care of those people, you got to hire the right people, all those sort of things, that just pops right back into my head. Mission first, people always. Such an important thing to do. And I'm sure that's one of the things one of the lessons I'm sure that you help your clients dive into.
Yeah, having the right people on board is really critical. I've got a client right now. He's very successful. He's got 10 businesses probably, and he's just now hurting bad enough that he's willing to make some changes in his people. He knows he's got some that's been there 20, 25 years. And he's like, maybe I either need to get rid of them or move them to a new seat on the bus. He's finally hurting bad enough. And, what I coach on is let's fire quick and hire slow, fire fast, hire slow, and let's train the heck out of these people. Just like in the military. If you're going to rely on a buddy, that buddy better be equipped and skilled and have all the tools in their tool bag to be able to help you so you can lean on them. Same way in business, same way with that employee down the hall or someone in another town at another location. You've got to have the right people, the right training.
Yeah, that's something we were actually talking about earlier this week as far as some different business concepts and whatnot. But as far as the importance of the talent development on that side of things, and that's one of those things that some business coaches will talk about it, some books will talk about it, those type of things. But it's one of those weird aspects I think gets left behind for some reason, where people tend to look at it as you're hiring a person, and that is they're what they are on paper. And then that's what they're going to be for the rest of the business for, rest of your life in the business for 10, 20 years. But in reality, so much more of the growth is happening behind those people and those skill developments, those type of things. And so when you're really being more perceptive to that and you start tapping into that kind of talent development, you can get a lot more out of those people. And especially if you're hiring slow and getting the right people onto that bus, then you got to develop them up and help them to grow as people. And that's how you really get a lot out of people.
Absolutely. And, kind of what you were saying there is we got to hire the right people. We got to get them trained. And sometimes that's not the easiest thing. So what a lot of people do is they oh, you got a heartbeat? Oh, you got some experience? You're hired. Well, let's create the position first. Let's create the job description. What do we want this person to do? Then we find somebody and maybe they've got a couple of more skills that, really will benefit the company. Great. Well, let's expand that job description a little bit. But the core of it is that job, that position, and we put somebody in it. So that way we're not trying to fit a position around a person. We're trying to fit a person around a position. We're trying to fit the person into the position. That makes sense.
Yeah, Dave Ramsey talks about the way he puts it, or one of the things he says, because, Dave, he's got all kinds of stuff that he's been talking about. But when it comes to hiring people, he says hire for passion, not talent. And I love that because, if you're hiring somebody just because they're good at what they say they can do, are they going to be a fit? And it reminds me of, Bo Schembechler when he was coaching at the University of Michigan. He had a blue chipper come in, big recruiting guy, one of the top in the nation. I don't remember if it was a running back or not, but really just this big blue chipper. And he didn't recruit the guy. Said not a good fit. And as the season was starting to kick off, they held a press conference, and one of the reporters asked him, "Hey, that kid, Joey Smith from Alabama, how come you didn't work harder to get him in the team?" And he told the reporter, he wasn't a fit for our team. And because he wasn't a fit for our team, if he had been part of our team, he would have beat us every day. And because he ended up at the Ohio State University, he only gets to beat us once a year. And I was like, man, that's, when you think about that, that is so critical of getting the right people. We talk about it in sports all the time. I think it gets brushed over in business. And I'm curious when you dive in and start helping your clients, like that one you mentioned earlier, with the 10 businesses and some of the folks been in his team for 25 years. What was the threshold that he crossed that now he's like, holy crap, not only do I need Jeff and his team to come help me, but this is really, really bad.
I think a few things for him in particular. He had a death in the family. So life he realized life. He's not getting any younger. He's probably in his mid 50s and he's working way too much. He's going from fire to fire to fire to situation. He's tired of that. And it's like, is this what I want for the rest of my life? And his wife works in the business too. And she's a little bit of a different personality makeup than him, but he doesn't want them to be slaves to their business. So he's now like, all right, I'm hurting bad enough. I got to make some changes. And one thing I would add to that is to staffing, and this guy's learning it too, is chemistry. A friend of mine, his name is Pat Williams. He's a general manager, or was, I don't know if he's still there or not, but of the Orlando Magic. He brought the Magic to Orlando, to the basketball team. And then they won the championship and all that. And he said that it's chemistry that really makes the team. Now, one of my favorite sports is stock car racing. And it fuels my mind to watch a pit stop. It just thrills me to watch all they can do in 13 seconds, which used to take like 25 seconds back in the old days, So now they do in 13 seconds. They put 4 wheels on, they clean the windshield, they put, 20 gallons of gas in there, and they make adjustments to the car, all in 13 seconds. That is poetry in motion. That is chemistry taking place right there. Same thing with the small business owner, whether you own a restaurant, a print shop, you have a donut store, it doesn't matter what kind of business you have, that chemistry is really critical. And you notice it when it's there and you notice it when it's not there. And sometimes you don't know what to do about it. And you take a guy like me, I can come in and I've got some fresh eyes and I can interview the staff and kind of figure out what's going on and say, here's some suggestions. I'm not saying you got to do it. I'm not saying your livelihood of your business or the future of the business is, if you don't do it, it's going to die. But here's some suggestions for you that you may want to think about with your staff. And I look at them from a lot of different ways because, hey, I've worked with 300 or 400 different organizations in 30 years. So I've had my opportunity to work with a lot of personalities, a lot of differences, and that kind of thing.
I think especially the sports will be, even as you tie it into business, I'll stick on the sports example first to just paint the analogy. But when you start talking about chemistry, I think what that is that's one of those things that makes a difference between a really good team and a great team. That when you watch, whether it's basketball, hockey, or anything else, rugby, when you watch a team out there, you could see them cohesively moving as a unit. We say it all the time in rugby, 15 as one. When you see that kind of chemistry, the level of performance that they're able to get out on a regular basis is so much higher because they're functioning together. And it's kind of that whole sum of each part is better than, or whole is better than sum of each parts, right? So I know I almost lost it there for a second, Dad. But when you have a team that's really talented but they don't have the chemistry, you wind up getting something that looks really good on paper and can't actually go all the way. I'll use the really easy example right now in hockey is the Toronto Maple Leafs of spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on putting together this amazing team, and then they get blown out in the first round and blow a 3-1 lead in the series. It's because they were a team that had a bunch of all-stars but didn't have a chemistry there. And when you get into a playoff situation in sports, it's just like getting into down into the stretch in your business. You got to have that chemistry, because that's when you're not going to be able to have, every little process working the right way. When you're at a playoff level of a sport, the competition is so high that you can't follow your game plan as specifically, and the communication might not be there. And there's all these other aspects that you lose because of the situation and because of all the pressure. And chemistry is the solution for that gap. If you don't have that chemistry, then that gap's going to be huge and your team's not going to do well. And I think when you get into that with business, we talk a lot about the internal jargon and those type of things, to where your business, the chemistry is just flowing because people know what to expect of each other. They know each other's personalities and they know each other's skill sets. And when you reach that kind of point, you can reach a point of flow so much more easily because you're able to anticipate each other. It's one thing inside the sports example. It happens all the time that you look at things there, especially at younger levels, when you coach high school sports and those type of things, you'll see there's players who get what's happening and they're moving ahead of the game. And then you have other players who are just reacting 5 seconds after that. And that's what you have when you have a lack of chemistry, is you have that 5-second lag time to where people aren't really on the same page. They'll get there eventually. You have a pretty good team, but you don't have a great team. And that lag time can really hurt you in the long run.
Absolutely. And, we're talking about people here and the chemistry, but the theme of this thing is perseverance, right? Well, if you don't have a purpose and your goals and your, values, and you don't have all that crystallized, and you don't have a good marketing plan, you're not looking at your numbers and the profit. And, we already, talked to people quite a bit, and you don't have processes in place, your business, it doesn't matter if it's going really good right now or it's struggling right now, it's probably not going to persevere very well. You might get like 3 of those, 3 out of the 5 working pretty good, but you still have 2 that are like a boat anchor dragging it down. And so if if you're not managing your numbers, you don't know if you're making money. I was talking to a business owner yesterday, and I said to her, well, how's the bank account look? She said, yeah, it looks really good. We're growing and we're able to pay our bills and we're making a profit. I said, how do you know? Well, I don't know. Really? You got to know. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do that, though. In all honesty, they look at the bank account. Well, it's more than it was last month. Okay. Or our P&L, we got money at the bottom. Of course, at the end of the year, they hate that because then they think, ka-ching, ka-ching, I got to pay taxes on this stuff. Then they don't want that. So it's about managing all 5 of those pieces. And it's not rocket science. It does take a little. That's why coaching is so helpful. Is the coach has a coach. I have a coach. Actually, I have 2 of them. So if a good business owner knows, hey, I just need a little direction. Somebody to kick me in the seat of the pants and push me in the right way. Or like this owner I'm telling you about that owns about 10 businesses. It's helping him to overcome the challenges so that he can persevere in his life and not have a stroke, a nervous breakdown, or just get to the end and go, Lord have mercy, it just wasn't all worth it,
Yeah, I'm curious. So you talked touched on a little bit about your process. When somebody comes to you, you get the phone call or whatever, the the process may be, and you do that initial call and they're like, yeah, man, whatever you have what I think I need. Can you kind of walk us through that onboarding, or that however you refer to it, to go from purpose, plan, profit, and then the other two pieces that I'm now
People and process.
That's why you kept it at 3, Dad.
Thank you very much for
Got
keeping
the 3 right, and it's purposeplanprofit.com. So purposeplanprofit.com. And by the way, anybody listening can jump on that purposeplanprofit.com. Up at the top right corner, click a free consultation. There's no strings attached. I don't work that way. We'll just take a look at what's going on in your world and see what I can do to help you. There's a good way to kick the tires too, and it doesn't cost you a dime. It probably cost you if you don't do it, But how do I onboard somebody? It's not cookie cutter. Those 5 Ps, we might not start with purpose. Maybe the problem is people, and so we got to start there. It just depends. Normally you don't, but we don't. It's not, for me, it's not a canned process. So the first thing is I ask a ton of questions. If the business owner comes,
because I'm kind of curious, is it kind of a triage when you do an initial and you say, ooh, that looks like the biggest problem? Is it kind of like that in your approach?
I want to hear what they think's the biggest problem,
Okay.
and then I want to probably figure out what the real problem is. Because many times it's not what they think is the problem, may not be. They could be right, but it may not be. So I want to listen. And so I'm talking to that business owner, whether it's a video conference, on the phone. I've got clients all around the country, so a lot of times it's on the phone or video, and then that doesn't hinder me at all. So I'm really listening for what the challenges are they're facing, and depending on what they hire me to help them do, because I'm a business coach. So I coach people from 1, 2, 3 times a month in their business. Sometimes people will hire me kind of as a remote chief financial officer, chief operating officer, which is a whole different gamut of issues and what I will actually work on, because I dedicate a lot of time on the kind of boots on the ground, so to speak, to help them. But what are the biggest challenges they're facing? I want to hear from them. And then many times what I like to do is interview the staff. Depending on the situation, depending on the need, I like to talk to a few people and, find out, how long have you been there? Do you have a job description? What are the goals of the company? What are your future plans? And kind of see what do you think the biggest issues are in the business? And let them talk to me, and I take notes. And then I formulate kind of a game plan and say, all right, Mr. Business owner, Mr. Business, Mrs. Business owner, here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I'm sensing. Here's what I think we need to work on first. What do you think? Mm-hmm. And get a yay or a nay. And because obviously it's their business. And if they will agree to, we're doing this, great. We take off into it, we go at it, and we have some serious goals. It's very strategic for me. It's very personal for me. I get very passionate, which gets me in trouble, quite frankly, because if I'm in the boat rowing hard and I'm coaching you 2 guys on growing your business, and I don't think you're rowing as hard as me, and it's your goals, I'm probably going to let you know about it, So I want to see, hey, come on, you can do this. This is what you said you wanted. Let's get after it. And I'm coaching them along the way. Michael Jordan didn't become the best basketball player on the face of the planet, or Tiger Woods in golf, or whoever you want to pick, just because they said, you know what, I think I'm going to kind of do it. No, Michael Jordan said, all right. Michael Jordan's out there shooting free throws, and the coach said, yeah, that's pretty good. Now shoot 100 more, So that's the same way with a business coach. It's, hey, that's pretty good, but let's accomplish more. I just had a client on the phone just this morning, and him and his marketing director went out to a business, and I said, yeah, I hear she's going with you a lot. I guess it's going pretty good. He said, yeah, it's going great. She's doing a great job. And then I asked the question, are you selling anything? Crickets. Mm-hmm. I said, then she ain't doing that good a job. I said, listen, I like her a lot. I love her to death. And I'm not saying anything bad about her, but if the goal is sales, we got to sell. Mm-hmm. So that's the onboarding process. It's not canned. It's very fluid, because, one business owner can have a totally different situation to another. I've got a client that just had a tragic issue in his business where it was two partners, and one of them was tragically killed.
Hmm.
Now he's got a whole different world of issues as opposed to my guy that owns 10 businesses. Whole different thing. So you got to go at it a different way. You know, business coaching is an art and a science and all at the same time.
I'm curious, Jeff, because we've heard this with a few different business coaches we've talked to. How often do you wind up getting hired for the wrong fix? And how do you handle that? Meaning that the client thinks that they want you to fix A, but the problem's D down the line. And they don't really like that you think the problem is D. So how do you go about that process? And how often has that happened to you?
Ken, that's a great question. And I go at it this way. They're the boss. Okay. They're the boss. I'm not the boss. So if they think we need to work on, people issues, okay, we'll work on people issues, even though the issue is really money management. So I'm going to try to convince them down the road that, hey, we got to start, we want to work on people, but we got to start working on money and maybe some KPIs or financial statements or whatever. And I'm going to try to get that in there where we are working on that. And I'm not trying to change their mind necessarily, but I'm trying to get them to see there's other things to look at other than just the urgent. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
No, I think that's great. I want to go back to that personal approach because it's so critical. And so many people, I think they get in their head that, Jeff, they go to your website and they see these things and they're like, oh, well, this or that or whoever. I'm not picking on your website saying it leads that way. But people get that in their head and say, well, that's not me. But I'll go back to what you said earlier is that you have two coaches, and I gotta follow up on that later on. But you have two coaches. I have a coach. Man, Tiger didn't perfect that swing. Michael Jordan didn't perfect that jump shot. All these things happened because they had somebody over here that wasn't tied to it, didn't have their face against the problem, who could see a bigger picture and give them some guidance and response and feedback to help them achieve. And this is the critical aspect that you touched on, help them achieve what they want to achieve, what they say they want to and what they really want to. And I think that's a critical thing. I love that you do that and jump in with the clients. So I want to jump back. You mentioned two coaches. I'm curious, are they, what kind of coaches are they? I'll just throw it out there like that.
One is, this guy's brilliant. He's been coaching longer than I have. He's in the Dallas, Texas area, and he is an E-Myth Michael Gerber guru. If anybody out there knows E-Myth and all that, he's a guru with processes. And so he helps me think through with my business and my thinking processes and strategies and stuff like that. So I don't get so off target. Then I've got a really tough marketing coach. This guy it seems like we're making slow progress. I coach on marketing. Remember, purpose, plan, profit. The plan is usually marketing, right? So I coach on that. But I've got a guy that coaches me on marketing, and he really is hard on me. He's like, Jeff, well, you need to do this, and why aren't you doing that? And he uses numbers a lot. So, if you're sending out this many emails, what kind of results are you getting? Oh, you're not measuring it. Why not? And it doesn't take long for a butt whipping for me to go, you know what? I probably ought to do this because this guy's going to say, you know what? I'm not helping you at all because you're not listening to me. And he's brilliant. This guy's wealthy as anything. He knows what he's doing. He's got tons of, he doesn't need me, So I'm just blessed to be able to have him talk with me once a month and help.
That's great because I think that also paints the picture of is for those potential clients out there, those small business owners, that is your niche. It helps them not just understand, okay, well, he's got a coach too, so it must be important to have one, but what those coaches do for you. And that's the thing, going back to what you mentioned earlier, Michael Jordan, take another 100 shots there, Michael. Those sort of things are the things that challenge you and then hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Now, when you do this with your clients, how often, when you do the process, so you've got somebody on board, they're part of the team, they're part of the the purpose plan profit team, what's that look like once they're working with you?
If it's a client, typically most clients get 2 sessions a month. That seems to fit. I've heard of coaches, they meet once a week, and I'm thinking, how can you, people don't have that much time. So but twice a month seems to be about right. I do have one client I think I do once a month. But twice a month, and many times I'll meet with the owner, and then I'll meet with a key person, so I'm really meeting with the owner once a month, and maybe a key person once a month. So that's how that works. And then, always there's some type of homework to work on. And I show up, my last name is Earlywine. I'm going to be early. I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to be locked and loaded. And like I told you, I'm passionate about what I do. And so, when I get on the phone, now my agenda is second to their agenda. Like when I got on the phone with the guy that lost his partner, my agenda went out the window. It didn't matter. It's like, all right, we won't talk about that because my stuff doesn't matter now. It can wait. Now, if somebody hires me as that virtual or remote CFO, COO, that is a lot different because they're buying a block of my time, 10, 15, 20 hours a month. And so I'm actually working on the business remotely with them and their team to accomplish what they want to accomplish. And I'm actually really, really involved, much more involved. And then I like to go on site maybe once a quarter for a couple of days, just to do it's hard to do, whether it's a video conference or a phone. So I like to go on site and fly in just for a couple of days and do that. So it's a little different, but the coaching, it's a couple of sessions a month. We always have something we're working on, and it's very intense. And we're not just guessing at this. It's if we're trying to increase sales, well, let's create a marketing plan and let's follow it. If we need to understand our numbers, then let's create some KPIs and let's look at them daily. Whatever. Does that answer your question, Otis?
Oh yeah, and I think that's great stuff. So now the squirrel just got me.
I got one.
Yeah, go ahead. Because the squirrel ran by, and now it's that question I had was gone. I should have wrote it down before the squirrel came.
Well, I wrote mine down. I learned that lesson. So I was curious, reading into your bio, and then also, in the green room, virtual green room before the show started. We were talking something about your accounting background. How has that specifically played into your coaching? Because that's one of those things. I think the coaches' schooling, it's not their entire process, but I always think that provides a little bit of key insight into the way they go about things, the way they go about thinking and whatnot.
Yeah. So kind of give you a little bit more than you're asking there. I double majored, double minored in college. So I a degree in accounting, degree in business. So I understand business pretty well. And I'm not trying to say I'm the best person out there and all that, but I've been doing this long enough. I ought to know what I'm doing. I've done a lot of counseling and work like that with people. And business coaching is an art and a science. So a lot of times if something's going on in somebody's head, we got to stop and what's going on up here? Are you afraid to grow? Are you afraid to fire that person? Do you need to hire somebody and you don't know what to do? You're tired of, you want to let go. You need to let go of the business, but you don't know how. And so a lot of it's between these two things, right? So that education, and honestly, I have a PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done a lot of things wrong. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of companies and organizations over the years and thousands of people in that time. And that helps me now to be able to identify with somebody, whether they're a millionaire, multimillionaire, somebody that's a startup business and they just graduated from college or anywhere in between. So Camden, I hope that kind of answers that. It's probably a lot longer answer for that short question, but it's there's a lot of packaging here, and most business coaches are kind of that way, unless they're very niche focused. My niche, small business owners. That's my niche. I don't really look at just medical people or insurance people or restaurant people, those kinds of things. I understand business. But if you're just educated in running restaurants, then maybe that's where you would coach. But a general coach, a small business coach, they've got a wide variety of a background like I do,
Well, let me ask a little bit more specific version of that because that was a great answer. But then does that on the math level of things at the accounting background? Because, I was a agribusiness major and I took my accounting classes and I, about 2 days in went, wow, I'm going to pay somebody to do this. And so I could imagine that, coming from enjoying that background, when you get in there with a business and it is, a financial problem where it's like, oh my gosh, you could see it in the numbers. Do you just light up like that? And it's like, okay, this is going to be an easy one.
Well, the accounting and the financial part of my background really helps me on the profit management, cash flow, understanding KPIs, understanding financial statements. Do they have a bookkeeper? How do you hire a bookkeeper? What do you look for in a CPA? Those kinds of things really helps me to link in very well, because if they can't manage their money, it doesn't really matter how much they're making. It's kind of like a fire hydrant, it's just shooting out water, and hey, if the income ever drops down to a water hose, you got a problem. So we've got to figure out some of the financial things, and understanding budgets, how to put a budget together for a business. That's very important stuff. Most people don't do that.
Right.
Projections. How do you project? So if you want to grow, or if you had a business and that at some point you're going to have to spend $100,000 on some AC units for the roof, or a new roof, so you've got to set money aside. So how do you project like that? How do you project sales? Working with a sales team, I work with a lot of salespeople. So how do you project like that? And what would it look like down the road if we hit our projections? What's the numbers look like? And so all that together, and then it's not just numbers, it's making sense to where the normal business owner, whether he builds houses for a living or runs a restaurant or whatever, he can go, all right, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. I've dumbed it down where it makes sense.
And guess what? My squirrel left, and I got my question back, and I think it's a great one so maybe I had some, my perfect segue timing and bringing us back to the barn with this question, because so there, honestly, because I do, we're in the same world, we're in the same industry, we're a dime a dozen out there. What makes Purpose Plan Profit and Jeff Earlywine, what makes y'all stand out, that as when somebody does their, whether you're SEO'd or not, does their Google search business coach, what makes you be the one that stands out and is different for potential clients coming forward?
Well, if you Google business coach, you won't find us. You'll find a lot of the big boys out there that do things a little different and certainly charge a lot more. But Otis, I was asked that question. What makes us stand out? There's two things. Number one is me and my team, we've got this ability to assess what the issues are better and quicker than it seems like anybody else. And maybe I'm a little biased, but that's one thing. So we know what the issue is in the business. And then the second thing that really sets us apart is laying out a plan of action that's very understandable for everybody involved to do. Mm-hmm. So they can understand it. So we lay out a plan, the person that just came on board the company can get involved in it, all the way up to the CEO, everybody in between. So those are the two things, really assessing what the issues are, laying out a plan of action, and then seeing it through. So those are the two things I think we do better than anybody else. And, if somebody says, well, hey, belly up to the bar, buddy, prove it. Well, they can go to purposeplanprofit.com, click on that top right button and schedule yourself an appointment, or call my office. My phone rang already on this call. So I'll give you the number now in case, if I can, 772-226-0723 rings straight to me. Doesn't ring to anybody else in the company. 772-226-0723. And you'll catch me, assuming I'm not on a podcast trying to get away from that call, and voicemail will catch it, and then I'll call you right back.
That's awesome, Jeff. Man, great stuff, and great differentiator. That's a way to set y'all apart and look at it that way. I'm going to shift us to what you learned, and I'll go in first because our fans of the show know that I'm particular about this, but I love the simplicity of what you learned. What did you learn? What'd you learn, to use my Texas draw a little bit more? And it was you said it when you were talking about talking with the client and the marketer, and the fact of if the goal is sales, then we got to sell. It's so simple. If we're not doing the simple things right, then we can't do anything complicated. So for me, that one stands out for me as just a reminder. If we're going to do sales, and this is the broader sense, but if we're going to do sales, then we got to sell. We got to be successful at it. If we're going to build our customer base, then we got to build our customer base. I mean, it's that kind of simplicity that I think came out to me that I just love. So, Jeff, what'd you learn today?
I learned that there's two guys out there that do a podcast for people that really care about the simple business owner. That's not the big box, the corporate, that has investors on Wall Street. But there's two guys that, really care about people, that have a show like this. They can box something together, package it together, and say, I'm going to deliver it to you, and it's going to help you. That's something that I learned.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Camden, what'd you learn?
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a throwaway thing, Jeff, you said early on, but you said processes are the glue for business. And that really hit home with me, because I think about all the startups I've worked on and how much energy you spend creating the processes before they're even processes. Just like figuring out what the heck to do on a daily basis can take so much time. And so putting in those processes for a business, that's life-saving stuff right there. So I really loved that way, what you put, that processes are the glue for business. That's great.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And Jeff, hit us up one more time with where to get in contact with you. And do you have, I thought I saw on your website like a blog or something that people could sign up for to just kind of follow y'all?
All kinds of free business materials on there. There's a book on there that I wrote. You can download that. Sign up for the blog, top right corner, schedule a free consultation. It's purposeplanprofit.com. And then my office number again is 772-226-0723. Call anytime. And again, if you miss me, I'll call you right back.
That's awesome. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time today too. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you for listening to today's show. Special thanks to our guest, Jeff Earlywine, for joining us today, and our sponsors, Tribe and Purpose. Find your purpose, build your tribe. You can check out recent episodes of The Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next week.